So in this video, what I'm gonna convince you, hopefully, is for you to accept yourself as a research scientist, as a scholar, and just be okay with that. The last few nights, I've been having these very vivid dreams of the basic story of it is I just don't feel good, and I'm not good enough with who I am, and I feel inferior with it. Every time I sort of wake up with these very vivid feelings of that, and I think it's because I'm working with data at this moment that is complicated, and it never really feels like it works out when I'm working with it. And as a professor, as a researcher, I am always faced with the feelings and the belief that I am behind in some sort of way. And it's very true. There's these incentives that we have that we need to meet these different milestones, whether it is getting your PhD, whether it is getting a assistant professor job, whether it is becoming tenured, getting a full professor. All of those things are these sort of very important milestones that we have that are somehow fixed in all of our minds and what that means. And I compare myself, and I think in my mind that I'm never good enough compared to other people. And I think about that quite a bit. I think if you're a research scientist, a scholar, you're always thinking like that. You're always thinking like, how come I don't have what somebody else has? And I often come back to, after I have these vivid dreams and memories, again, I'm documenting all of this, so hopefully somebody else can maybe keep this story, and hopefully it affects you. If it does affect you, and this is your story, please do subscribe. I have these vivid memories, and I wake up and I think about this, and I think, why am I even contemplating that? I live in one of the most amazing times of history of peace for the most part, and I realize that there's complexities that are brewing around the world. But for the most part, we live in a very peaceful society, and we also live with an unbelievable amount of technology that allows us to do some incredible things that we've never been able to do. I think about all these kind of things that, when I would have been, if I would have grown up even 50 years earlier, I would have had a much different upbringing and story, and I would have had a far more difficult time. I think about even the fact that I'm able to have this conversation with you and how privileged and lucky I am. I think about all these moments, and yet I still come back to, and I have these vivid beliefs that I'm not good enough because I'm making comparisons to other people that probably shouldn't even be made. And that's where my story begins, or that's where I want to sort of think about this, is sometimes you just have to accept your reality and what it looks like. And that means, in your mind, accepting your quote-unquote limitations, which is a term I don't even like, because it's more of what your traits are and what is going on in your life and your scenario, and that somehow you view them as a weakness, or other people view them as a weakness, but in fact, it's just your reality of who you are and what is going on. And I want you to take that step back. Is every time you feel like this, you go through these emotions. I'm not good enough. I'm not living up to my potential. Any of those kind of things. I want you to take a step back and think about how it's just your reality. It's just what is actually going on. The way that you actually do science, the way that you do research is different than other people. Maybe you're working on different problems, and you can't compare in any sort of way. Every time that I go through these moments of of self-doubt, which is a lot. You could see that on this channel. I'm always going through these moments of self-doubt and introspection. I have to come back to the belief that, wait a minute, I'm doing the right thing in this moment. I know it doesn't feel good, and it might not necessarily be the way that everybody is expecting of me, but this is how I have to do it, because this is my situation and what it actually looks like. And so if it doesn't live up to the standard, the idealistic standard that we have in our heads, and perhaps other people have of yourself, well, so be it. That's the only thing that I can think about is I'm stuck in this moment of time where I want to accomplish a lot more stuff. And I think maybe potentially I look at other people that are publishing all this stuff, but I don't know their story. I don't know what is going on, whether they're even reading the material that they're going through, whether they're even thinking about it. And 9 times out of 10, they're probably not. So I have to accept myself for who I am, and that I will always be slower. I will always be this, but to some degree, I'm okay with that. I think that's a hard reality that we all have to accept in some sort of way, is coming back to the feeling of, I think I'm okay with this. I think that despite what the world believes and thinks that I should do, and then I'm somehow behind, I have to first of all think of my reality. I think of this practice of that therapists use to think about all of your 5 senses and think about your reality. And once you start thinking about that, your reality and where you are, you think, I'm not so bad. I think this is pretty ordinary. And another thing that I often think about is I get the privilege to compare against other people because I could see how they perform, not only in the sense of my colleagues, but also students. And I see across the board, almost uniformly, there's very little difference across students if they try, across individuals if they try. So I have to compare, and I have to think about, we're comparing apples and oranges here. They're not the same standard. They're not measured in the same way. We just have to accept that as it is. We have to come back to the belief of, I'm okay with who I am because we're being measured with different yardsticks. And every time that you feel like that, every time you go through these moments of self-doubt, which are going to be often, if you're a research scientist, if you are a scholar in some way, I want you to come back to saying, I'm just okay. I'm doing the right things that I should be doing, and it might not work out, but that's okay. We'll always find something else out. We can solve this problem another time, and that's okay. And if it looks like I'm never productive and that I'm just wasting my time, well, that's okay as well. That's what I need to do at this moment. I think if you remember that, you calm down, take a deep breath, think about your reality, say, I'm good enough at this moment. I think it will help you out.